So how can I do digital PR? So for this deck, I've really gone back to basics, and I'm trying to show you guys the simple ways that you guys can essentially go away and have a go at doing some digital PR yourselves. So the first one, and I would say probably the kind of lowest hanging fruit, the quickest win, is journalist requests. So there are lots of platforms out there where journalists log in on the daily and they are looking for an expert to comment on all kinds of topics. And these aren't just kind of your smaller like blogs, which some of these sites used to have. These are large scale publications, Country and Townhouse, Metro, the Daily Mail. All of those nice big titles are coming on and they are looking for experts. So what you can do is go on there and start to have a little search and see if your experts align with any of these requests. And you can pitch yourself, you can answer the questions, you can add value and become a trusted source with these journalists. So if you wanted to do this, I would always say, always ensure what you're answering is relevant. So I work with lots of clients now and they send me requests and say, can we answer this? And I'm like, no, we can't answer this. I know it might be a really nice opportunity with The Guardian, but you guys aren't actually the expert that this journalist is looking for. So you've always got to make sure that it's relevant. And then check that what you're sending, how you're answering this, is it audience friendly? If it's quite a technical request, make sure that you're talking to the potential readers of that publication. You guys might be the expert in something, but you have to consider the fact that the person reading that content may not be. Don't send your live story, but do have a very clear kind of bio and explain why you are an expert in that sector. And answer questions, provide expertise, but ideally make it bite-sizable. So what you'll find with journalists is that when you answer a response like this, they may just lift sections of it. So make sure it's bite-sizable, it's interesting. There are little bits that they can take and slot into their articles with ease. Always offer to provide further insight as well. So answer the questions that the journalists are asking. Be clear, be concise, but you can always say at the bottom, if you need further information, if I can help you in any further way, let them know. Be polite, be friendly, and no AI slop. Which again, I work with some clients and I will send them some questions. I'll say, hey, can you just send me a couple of bullet points on this request so I can gain a bit more insight and information? And I can see that they've gone to Gemini and sent me a huge quote that is just from AI. A journalist notices it straight away, and a lot of the tools that we get these journalist requests through now can actually identify that it's AI coming through. So be human, be real, and actually show your expertise. It's also a fantastic way to see what the media are talking about within your industry as well. You can start to get a really good gauge on, okay, what do journalists actually want to talk about that's relevant to our brand, our experts, and our products as well. So to kind of get you guys started, I thought I'd mention a few of these as well. Like, where do we start? So you've got Quoted. It is more US based, but there are some UK ops on here. I did include this one because this is the only one that I use that I think is good, that is actually free. You have 5 free pitch credits per month, and it's a nice, simple kind of interface to use. You can search for your specific kind of area of expertise and see what type of requests are out there. So you can literally go in there and write gardening or DIY and see what comes up, see what you can respond to, and it's just a nice, simple way to get started and see what kind of requests are coming through. For more of the UK side of things, you've got Response Source and Synapse. So Response Source is fantastic, and it's all category based. So you have things like tech, personal finance, automotive, and you pay per category, which I think is fantastic because it means that the only requests you get through are very relevant to your area of expertise and your industry. They do allow for a free trial. It's typically 7 days. If you get to the end of that 7 days, just email them and say, hey, I've not seen enough requests. Please, can I have another week while I track this to really show the ROI to my boss. It's a great way to get an extra week free trial. But again, a really nice one. You could sign up today, see what requests are coming through by tomorrow morning, and again, have a go at answering them. It's all very straightforward in terms of when those requests come through. You literally just reply to them like an email and answer the question that the journalist has asked. And it's as simple as that. There is the other one, Synapse, as well. Again, predominantly UK. These guys used to be free, but they have just gone up to £90 per month, which I believe gets you 5 requests that you're allowed to answer. But my advice, suggestion, sign up to Quoted, have a little look, and response source. Ask for the free trial, let them know what industry you work in, and start to see the type of requests that are coming through. It's a really nice, quick win to start being able to see what the media are talking about within your industry, and actually securing some digital PR coverage. We then have reactive PR. So reactive PR is essentially when we watch out in terms of, okay, what's going on in the news, what's going on in the world, and how can we talk about this on behalf of our clients. So this was this week. I had a quick look at what's going on. Obviously the heat wave continues. We're all absolutely boiling hot. I feel like I'm about to pass out. We've got here that travellers reminded to take precautions to avoid infections abroad this summer. This was released yesterday by the UK Health Security Agency. And of course, tonight, we've got the World Cup. There are lots of things happening that we could be talking about as brands quite easily. So with the heat wave, this has been a huge topic for so many clients this week. If you are in the gardening space, you could put out 5 tips on looking after your grass so it doesn't dry out. You could do something if you were working in health around, I don't know, adapting your medication in the heat wave, things to be aware of. There are lots of topics that we can speak on based on what's happening in the world. It's all about considering what experts have we got within the business and what do we do as a business, what products do we offer that tie into what is happening in the world and then, or the country, our local area, and start to think how can we add value with the expertise that we have in-house during this time. Have a think, have a look at what's out there and happening and start to think of it from a brand perspective. What can we speak on? What can we talk about? My biggest watch out with this is don't add to the conversation if you can't or it doesn't make sense. Again, another big watch out is like, I've had clients come to me and there's been something going on like, we should be talking about this. We should be talking about this thing that's happening in the news. It's not relevant to you. You shouldn't be talking on it. And if anything, journalists will look at it and go, you're just trying to piggyback off something that's happening. It has to be relevant. And then again, going back to kind of trust, credibility, we need to keep that in mind when we're considering what we're putting out there to journalists and to the world. Again, be concise with what we want to say, be authentic, and actually add value. Again, consider that kind of end user of the comment, of the tips, of the advice, and think, are we actually adding value to them? Mention the news story in your headline. So the way that I would go out with this, just a nice email. So an example we've got here is I work with a brand out in the US called Start Your Recovery. They put people in touch with rehabilitation clinics throughout the US. And when the Euphoria finale came out, there was a lot of conversation around fentanyl addiction, death from addiction. So we went out with the piece talking about kind of how realistic euphoria is, but also how triggering it can be for people in recovery. So we took something that was happening and being spoken about, and we jumped straight in with, here's our addiction expert to kind of weigh in on this, and give a really medical response as well. So as you can see here in that headline, subject line to the journalist, we're mentioning that the finale in there, so that journalist knows straight away, oh, that's what they're talking about. And don't be afraid to kind of think, okay, what can we come up with? What can we talk about? And have a go. Keep it local, keep it to a smaller number of journalists. There's no reason why just because you're not a PR, it doesn't mean you can't just have a go, and see what response you get. Again, no AI slop. Obviously, use AI to talk about templates, to get ideas of like the template, the layout of what a pitch should look like, but don't get it to write it. Again, I know journalists would much prefer a pitch that may be slightly different to one that a PR might send, but as long as it's, you know, it's got that authenticity and it's actually got real expertise, that's better than throwing them 4 tips that is from Gemini that they've heard 5, 6, 7 times over. So always come at it from that kind of human element. Probably one of my favorite things is utilizing internal data. So start looking at, okay, what data do we hold as a business? What interesting stats do we have? Or is there anything happening with our customer base that we're noticing? Some really nice examples here. So this is lastminute.com. They spotted that shoulder season, which is around autumn travel, is actually starting to rival the summer peak. So again, nice simple story. We're actually noticing that people are preferring to go away around autumn. They've given the stats of what they've seen and pitched out some nice industry-led travel publications. As Amanda would say, a bit more hyper-relevant there. And then one of my favourite uses of internal data is actually from Uber. So the Uber Lost and Found Index, they've just released this again a couple of months ago, and they go through all of their kind of data to discover all of the unique things that have been left in the back of Ubers. So you've got all the most unique things. They also feature all the most common things as well. But some of the things that obviously come out are funny. It's a fun story. So dentures with 2 teeth, breast milk, human hair, an ankle monitor, all kinds of crazy things left in the back of an Uber. And again, it's a really creative, fun way of utilizing data. It's not necessarily talking about taxi drivers or getting taxis. It's really hooking into that kind of lifestyle element with a fun story. So start to consider, okay, what data do we hold that could tell a story? The other one as well is when certain things are going on in the world, you know, is there an uptick in traffic to a specific category? Is there a peak in the day when traffic spikes, or, you know, a trend that's kind of creating an uptick in new customers? Is there something happening on site that we're seeing? And like, oh, that's interesting, why could that be? And start to consider, is there a story that we can tell here? Is there a reason behind this? Journalists, they love data. Data is king, and if you're utilizing your own data to be able to tell stories, even if you're bringing data, your own internal data, into those reactive comments or into those journalist requests, you're giving the journalist something else that no one else has, because that data is unique to you, it's unique to your business. And a little example of this, of how I did this again to start your recovery. So I was working with them in January. It's one of their busiest times of year. And we started to look at, okay, when does the kind of demand start to spike for people looking at rehab? And it was January 5th. And we looked at this and we put together with their experts as to why. You know, why are we seeing that spike around that time? Why could that be? We also looked at other certain states where it spikes more. We also drilled down into the day of the week that demand spikes the most, and the time of day. So again, a really nice, simple campaign that all came off the back of just looking into that client data and considering what stories can we tell to the press that people care about, and then can we bring in our experts as well to discuss this. Then roundups and reviews. So in the era of AI, we know that kind of roundups, reviews, listicles are feeding a lot of these models. It's all about looking at, okay, where are the reviews, where are the roundups that are relevant to our business? So have a quick Google, depending obviously which sector you work in. I included this here. If you own a coffee shop in Lancaster and you have a quick search, this is one of the ones that comes up, not even on news, this is on page 1 of Google. So if I was coming to Lancaster looking for a coffee shop, I might click on this and have a quick scroll through. Straight away we can see 18A isn't even there anymore. If this was me and I had a coffee shop, I'd get in touch. I'd be like, hey, we're a new coffee shop. You should include us. Maybe you could replace 18A with a picture of our lovely coffee shop instead. These are the small things that we can do to kind of get the brand out there, get them featured in this type of content that people are regularly engaging with. Another part of this is obviously more product-led, but looking at Runner's World here, the 8 best walking pads for staying active during the working day. So these are more product roundups, and these actually get updated quite a lot. So you can see this one was updated on the 23rd of June, and that's because they're a constant source of people when they're shopping. So when you find these are amazing for just drop the journalist an email. Hey, we've got this fantastic product. We would love for it to be included, and give them a little bit of information as to why. And your brand, your product could end up on there. But having a little bit of a research and looking at, okay, where are our competitors showing up on these roundup and reviews? What type of reviews could we be showing up on? And you can do a quick, relevant Google search. Who's covering this? Reach out to the journalist. Again, it's a human at the end of the day on the other end of that email. Cite the article, say I've spotted that you've written this, and just explain why you think your brand should be featured. Give them some insight, a little bit of information, testimonials, supporting images. We thought this would be the perfect inclusion on your list, and then why. And if you can, if it's a product or if it's an experience and it's a publication that you really want to be featured in, and you've got the option there, you can offer them a review and take that conversation from there to have that journalist come and actually experience the product, the brand. And don't be pushy, obviously, or too rude. Journalists are very busy, but kindness can go a long way. And just reach out and just ask, take that leap, and see what you can get back from that. But I've never spoken to a journalist. This is what a lot of people think. I think they think journalists are really scary people. I don't want to speak to them. They're all human. They all want to share news. That's why they do what they do. So when speaking to the media, be relevant, first of all. Always ensure that no matter what we're sending to that journalist, no matter what is in that email, it's relevant to them. Make sure you've done a little bit of research. What do they write about? Which areas do they cover? Is what I'm sending them actually going to resonate? Does it make sense? Will their readership actually want to read it? I think this is probably one of the biggest bugbears of journalists in 2026, especially with the kind of explosion of digital PR, is that they're getting sent a lot of irrelevant stuff a lot of the time. So relevancy is key more than anything. Be polite, especially if this is something where you're like, actually, you know what, I'm gonna have a go. I'm going to ask to be included in that roundup, or I'm going to do that journalist request. Just be polite with the journalist. It goes a long way. And again, be human. Where you can, write your own pitch, write your own expert comment, write up the quote yourself. Don't rely on AI to do it. A journalist can spot it a mile off, and it's the one way just to end up in the kind of blocked list. So always, be human, be authentic, and have a go at doing it yourself. Finding contact details. So let's say you're like, okay, I want to go to Lank's Life. I'm not quite sure where to go with this. If it's a local story, what you can do is go to the contact us pages. A lot of the regionals have them in the footer, and they actually all list the email address of those journalists. Again, before you necessarily send them anything, just go and have a little look at what they're writing and make sure that it's relevant for them. Bios, so if you're looking at more nationals, or if you're looking into kind of more of your like lifestyle publications, homes, interiors, most journalists have a bio on there. So if you've seen that they're writing something that you think is similar to what you wanted to pitch to them, or if they've written the roundup or review that you want including in, click on the name, go to their bio. 9 times out of 10 you're going to get an email address in there. It's quite simple and easy to find email addresses now, and if you're doing this on a much smaller scale, it's not as necessary to invest in very big expensive media databases. So tools and resources. So Glimpse is fantastic at spotting trends. So essentially it will show you when searches are spiking around certain terms on Google. Again, if you're seeing maybe something that is happening in your industry, or you've spotted something on TikTok and you're like, oh, that could be interesting, you can drop it into Glimpse and it'll tell you if there has been an increase in searches for that term. So I was working with a fashion brand last year, the year before, and we saw the mob wives trend going crazy on TikTok. Again, we had then got the search increase from Glimpse, and we were able to include that in a little bit of expert commentary, and to back up part of our reactive as well. Quoted, Response Source and Synapse, which I've mentioned, which are fantastic for journalist requests. Harrow is another one you can sign up for. Again, it's a little bit more US based, but if anyone has any US clients, it's fantastic for that. If you are wanting to start looking at kind of mass sending, and I use that term very, very carefully because we don't want to spam out to 1,000 journalists, but if you've got a really nice reactive comment and you want to send it to 20 journalists and you don't want to sit there and send each one, you can use Streak, and then you can track your open rate as well and see how well those emails are performing. Finchling, which is very new to the market, I've only used it a couple of times, but essentially you can see what is happening within industries and within news, and it will help you come up with reactive PR ideas, and proactive as well, but very much helping you form those expert-led ideas, which is really nice. If you are wanting to invest and start looking into getting journalist email on a bigger scale, Journo Finder is fantastic for that. And then if you just want to get a bit more immersed in the world of digital PR and see what brands are doing, see what they're talking about when it comes to data-led campaigns, expert-led commentary, reactive, proactive, the PR Insider is fantastic. And they've got a huge database from the last 3 years of all different types of campaigns that span lots of different industries. So a really nice one to look at if you're considering, okay, I'm going to start having a look at doing some digital PR. Have a look there, get some inspiration, and yeah, have a go. Thank you.